New things are shiny and exciting, and who doesn't like the idea of paying zero tax? It's natural for us to be attracted to shiny new things and would want to possess them instantly. However, when it comes to real estate investment, this may not always prove to be a good thing. While buying new property certainly has its own appeal and presents an opportunity for you to get some tax incentives and be less maintenance than established property. Being transparent, we want to bring both sides of the story. In this video today, we want to talk about the differences between buying new versus established property. Also, whether or not you can pay no tax with new property and whether or not you should invest in new versus established. Watch to the end if you want to find out whether you can pay no tax when investing in property. And make sure, if you haven't already, click the follow and subscribe button and let me know any of your problems in the comments you have on your journey and I'll create a video for you. A little bit about me. I'm Scott Lavoon, the founder of Wealth Through Property. I started investing in property at the age of 30 years old while working a full-time job as a tradie. I wasn't on a big income, and within the space of 3 years, with the right mentors, I was able to build a system where I was able to retire with over 10 properties and over 100,000 in passive income. Straight to the point. Which one grows more in value? Property will be forever. Supply versus demand. There are a few factors that drive demand up for property, and these are population growth, location, job opportunities, and land scarcity. There are also a few things that drop demand for property, which is available stock, also location, affordability, and overall appeal. Whether we are buying new versus established, how much stock is being introduced into that market will also have a big impact on the demand and supply of property. It's not unreasonable to think, while stock is still being introduced and built, that supply will be greater than demand. Also, how many areas around the immediate market also have approval for new developments? So how much stock is being built in these areas? So we are starting to understand that stock being introduced into any market is not a good thing to demand. You also have appreciation versus depreciation. Appreciation comes with scarcity, limited supply and demand. We also understand that land is the scarcest thing in the world and no more land can be made. So the longer an area has been held, the scarcer it becomes. We understand that land grows in value. It's unreasonable to think that the building itself is not going to get older over time. It's going to start to cost money to maintain at some point and its value is going to drop. Yes, the building is going to depreciate while the land is only going to appreciate. Let's take an example of growth on a new property versus established house. Let's say the established house is over 30 years old versus the new house that is being built. The new property's land was purchased for $500,000 and the build cost was $500,000. So $1 million in value, while the established house and land were also bought for $1 million. Which one will grow more? We all know that land grows at an average of 7% compound per year. The established property has nearly fully depreciated at this point, and the only value of the property is the land. The established house would grow $70,000 in that first year. But would a new property be the same? With the shortage of labor and materials, that a new build could take up to 2 to 3 years for the house to be built. So in these 2 to 3 years, there could be no growth on the new property because it's a build. So how would you compare that to an established house? The value of the established home is growing at 7% per year, but on the full value of what the purchase price is, which is 7%. Even if the new property did grow in value, we understand that the value of the land is only $500,000. So you would only grow 3.5% growth of that full amount of the purchase. So far, the established house is winning in terms of growth. So what happens once the build is done? Do you get growth then? And how much? This will depend on how much stock is still being introduced into the suburbs by the developers and how much stock is still being built. If the developers are still introducing and selling stock, then you know you're not going to see some growth for many years until they stop. There is another important factor we're going to bring into this, and that is the depreciation of the new build. According to the ATO, you can often claim 2.5% of a property's construction cost every year for the next 40 years from the date it was built. We all know that the minute you buy something new, like a brand new car out of the dealership, the value dramatically drops. So you would expect the same for a new house build. Though, for the purpose of using raw research and the ATO figures, for the new house, let's say the land appreciates at 7%, but your build depreciates at 2.5%. So while the land grew $35,000 in the first year, your build has dropped $12,500 in the first year also. Also, you can see the growth is being hindered by the depreciation of the new build, plus when the build actually finishes. I know what you're going to say next. What about all the tax exemptions like depreciation and negative gearing you'd get on a new property? How many times have you seen these ads telling you you'll have to pay zero tax, or there are 2 tax secrets if you watch their webinar? I'm going to be blunt. These tax savings are a myth and more a ploy for you to buy their new property. You really need to understand the people selling these new properties and the motivations they have behind selling these new properties. You join one of these buying clubs that are cheap and low memberships that promise you access to off-market opportunities, showing you how much depreciation you get back at tax time. These aren't even off-market opportunities. These are stock they are selling you, where they're making a commission back from the developer. Also, they produce stock for their thousands of other members. Further, the reasons they may charge you so cheap being in that club or to be a member is that they're making a huge huge cut from when they sell the property to you. Yes, they are selling the property to you. They're not buying it for you. Don't get confused. The number of times someone calls me after buying these new properties and tells me how fantastic the depreciation is without completely understanding that depreciation isn't free money and you actually have to pay it back on the sale of the property if you ever sell. It adds on to your capital gains tax and you end up paying all the tax back even though at the time you thought it was money in your pocket. Yes, you may be exempt for a 50% reduction of this tax on the profits from selling your property, but this is only if you meet certain criteria. But still, this is what they're putting in a selling point to you without being completely transparent. You need to understand, tax is a pain point for anyone. Nobody likes to pay tax. So the sellers get you all excited with all these tax benefits without completely explaining to you that there are also a lot of downsides. It's like negative gearing. People hear the words negative gearing. They think it's free money. They think they get tax back. The whole reason negative gearing was introduced was to encourage investors to invest in property to create more supply and affordable living in areas that aren't appealing to investors. This is a terrible strategy as it takes away cash flow and makes you have to add extra money to the mortgage. You are not saving money by negative gearing. In fact, you lose potential money you could have earned. It's funny when you think that on social media it's all hyped about not paying taxes. But the reality is you're using other people's money, like the banks and their bank loans. These people are still getting taxed. In regards to paying no tax, when you leverage usable equity to invest in more, you claim the interest on the difference in the loan amount. And this is where they say you pay no tax if you're not making any money on the rent. So to build that first deposit, you would have had to have a wage that was taxed to get to your first deposit. But if you're not making money on the rent, then this means it's another expense where you have to add more money in to service the loans. Say you make $10,000 a year on rent, and yes, you have to pay tax on that $10,000. Even at a 50% tax rate, you were still earning more money than if you were claiming a loss on that investment property. You need to understand, equity is not considered ordinary income. You don't need to pay tax on it. It's either the bank's money or money earned when you sell a property. You only pay tax on the equity if you sell your property. This is what we call capital gains tax. However, when taking out the equity through a bank loan, you are leveraging your capital on your property and paying interest on that loan amount. Though the interest is tax deductible against any profits your property makes. I hope this clears up a few things about investing in new, best established property and the misconceptions behind paying no tax, negative gearing, and the equity and the capital gains tax. I really hope you've enjoyed this guide on how to start when looking to build your team and start your property journey. Please follow, like, and share, and comment if you got value, and stay tuned for more.